The Galactic Concordat, a vast alliance of highly specialized species, operated on principles of exquisite efficiency and perfect optimization. Each species within the Concordat had evolved to excel at a particular niche, both biologically and technologically. The Zelar were masters of FTL travel, their ships warping across vast distances with unparalleled speed and precision. The Viridian hegemony curated the most advanced biological sciences, their fleets deploying sophisticated biodrones. The Lumina Ascendants controlled energy manipulation, their ships weaving shields of pure light. Every task, every role was filled by a species uniquely suited for it, creating a symphony of specialized perfection. Their logistics, therefore, were a marvel of intricate design. Specialized cargo vessels designed for specific types of payloads and optimized for specific routes. Ferried resources across the stars. Automated supply chains managed by hyper-intelligent processing units ensured that every component, every byte of data, every unit of nutrient paste arrived precisely where and when it was needed. There was no waste, no redundancy, only perfect, graceful efficiency. When the Concordat first encountered the Terran Federation, their initial reaction was one of polite, almost pitying bewilderment. Humanity was, to their specialized sensibilities, profoundly unoptimized. Our ships were multi-purpose, jacks of all trades, masters of none. Our people were generalists, capable of a dozen different roles, but excelling at none to the degree of a specialized species. Our logistics were a chaotic, often redundant mess of improvisation and brute force. We were, in the Concordat's view, profoundly inefficient. High Coordinator Xyler Prime, a being of pure light essence and logical calculation, was tasked with analyzing this new clunky species. His report to the Concordat's ruling council was a masterpiece of understated condescension. Species. Designation human. Xyler Prime's melodic light chimes resonated in the council chamber. They are a species of generalists. Their biology is adaptable but not optimized. Their technology is robust but not elegant. Their logistics are, for lack of a more charitable term, profoundly redundant. They appear to be capable of many tasks, but none with the peak efficiency of a dedicated species. The Concordat Council, after a period of serene contemplation, deemed humanity to be a Tier 5, unspecialized species. They were useful for brute force labor, perhaps, or for tasks that required a general, non-specialized approach. They were, in essence, the mules of the galaxy, capable of carrying a heavy load, but without grace or particular distinction. The conflict that would change this perception was the Shadow War, a creeping, insidious conflict with the enigmatic, resource-starved deval collective. The deval were masters of subversion and asymmetric warfare, constantly disrupting Concordat supply lines, targeting the highly specialized cargo vessels and automated convoys. They didn't aim for conquest, they aimed for attrition, for the slow, agonizing strangulation of the Concordat's perfectly optimized logistical network. The Concordat found itself in a crisis. Their specialized supply ships, designed for speed or capacity, were vulnerable. A single deval stealth fighter could cripple an entire convoy if it knew its weakness. Their automated systems, while efficient, lacked the flexibility to adapt to constant, unpredictable threats. Their logistics, once their strength, had become their Achilles' heel. Admiral Lyra, a Lumina Ascendant, addressed the High Council, her light body flickering with frustration. Our specialized transports are being systematically targeted. Our automated convoys are being compromised. The deval are not attempting direct confrontation. They are simply preventing our resources from reaching the front lines. Our perfectly optimized supply chains are breaking down. It was in this atmosphere of increasing desperation that a small, obscure human logistical division, led by the perpetually weary but strangely resilient Captain Ben Carter, requested an audience. Carter was not an elegant strategist, but a veteran of countless brutal terrestrial logistics operations, from disaster relief to frontier colonization. His project, Operation Lifeline, had been largely ignored by the Terran military, seen as an exercise in gross inefficiency. "Honored members of the Concordat," Carter began, his voice gravelly but firm. "You are losing this war because you have built a perfect glass logistics network. Every link is optimized, but if one link breaks, the whole chain fails. The deval know this, and they are exploiting your specialization." He paused, a faint, almost grim smile playing on his lips. "But what if we stopped trying to be perfect? What if we embraced redundancy? What if we embraced the ugly, the inefficient, the profoundly unspecialized?" He then displayed a series of holographic projections, images of ancient human cargo haulers, massive, slow, but incredibly tough ships. He showed diagrams of human supply lines, often chaotic, filled with unexpected detours, but almost impossible to completely sever. He showed footage of human loading docks, a mess of manual labor, but capable of handling any cargo, anywhere. "For millennia," Carter continued, "humanity has moved mountains of material, not with elegant specialization, but with sheer, brute force adaptability. Our ships are slow, but they're tough. Our crews are generalists, but they can fix anything with a wrench and a prayer. Our systems are redundant, but they are almost impossible to truly break. We are not optimized for anything, and therefore, we are adaptable to everything." "My proposal," Carter concluded, his eyes blazing with conviction, "is to deploy the Mules, fleets of human general-purpose cargo vessels, crewed by humans, operating with human logistics. We will not be fast. We will not be elegant. But we will deliver. We will simply not break." The Concordat High Council stared, bewildered. These humans were suggesting that their unspecialized, inefficient approach could succeed where their refined systems failed. It was a concept as alien as the deval themselves, but then again, humanity was nothing if not alien in its approach to everything, and they were truly, hopelessly desperate. Operation Lifeline was activated. The Concordat swallowed their pride and authorized the deployment of the Mules. Captain Carter was given command of the first Mule fleet, designated Iron Belly Convoy. His flagship, the TDFS Stubborn, was a monstrous boxy vessel of welded durasteel, bristling with redundant shields, modular cargo bays, and enough repair drones to rebuild itself mid-transit. Its engines were powerful but inefficient, designed for sustained, long-duration travel, rather than speed. It was, by Concordat standards, an ugly, anachronistic monstrosity. Its crew was even more unusual. They were not elite pilots or brilliant strategists. They were grizzled veterans of deep space hauling, frontier settlement, and disaster relief. Men and women who understood the virtue of simply getting the job done, no matter how boring, difficult, or dangerous. Their training focused not on combat, but on self-sufficiency, on-the-fly repairs, and extreme cargo handling. Their mission was simple: take critical supplies to the beleaguered Concordat front lines through deval-infested space, and simply arrive. The deval collective, masters of precise interdiction, quickly detected the new human convoys. They were massive, slow-moving targets, seemingly ripe for the picking. A deval stealth squadron, boasting highly specialized anti-cargo vessel weaponry, ambushed the Iron Belly convoy in the desolate void of the Serpent's Coil Nebula. Commander Zath, the deval squadron leader, watched the human ships approach. They are slow, clunky. Their shield signatures are primitive. This will be an easy hunt. Target their primary fuel conduits, then their cargo bays. Standard interdiction protocol. The deval ships, sleek and fast, phased in, their specialized, weapons lashing out. They hit the Stubborn and its sister ships with pinpoint accuracy, targeting their most vulnerable systems. But the humans were not operating with Concordat-level optimization. The Stubborn's primary fuel conduit was hit. It ruptured, but instead of a catastrophic explosion, a series of automated multi-redundant valves slammed shut, rerouting fuel through emergency conduits. The ship juddered, losing a fraction of its power, but it kept moving. A deval weapon impacted a cargo bay. The outer plating buckled, but the inner modular cargo containers, each shielded and compartmentalized, remained intact. The specialized, anti-cargo weapons designed to crack open sleek, optimized Concordat containers simply bounced off the crude, multi-layered human boxes. Captain Carter on the bridge of the Stubborn simply grunted, "They're trying to hit our weaknesses. Problem is, we got so many damn weaknesses, you gotta hit them all at once to make a difference." The deval, accustomed to a few well-placed shots, crippling a specialized Concordat vessel, found themselves firing barrage after barrage at the human ships, only for the ugly, slow vessels to absorb the damage and keep grinding forward. Their weapons, designed for precision destruction of optimized systems, were simply not effective against the sheer brute force redundancy of human design. The deval were designed to cripple a target. They were not designed to simply keep hitting, something that refused to be crippled. Their ammunition reserves, designed for quick, efficient kills, began to dwindle. The Iron Belly convoy, damaged but unbroken, slowly, inexorably, ground its way through the ambush. The deval squadron, having exhausted its specialized weaponry to no effect, was forced to retreat, bewildered. The Mules had arrived, and they refused to break. Weeks turned into months. The deval collective's strategy of logistical attrition was failing against the human convoys. They would ambush a mule fleet, pour all their specialized firepower into it, inflict heavy damage, but the human ships would simply absorb the punishment, patch themselves up, and keep moving. Commander Zath, the deval squadron leader, felt a growing sense of frustration. Their ships. They are absurd. They are a patchwork of crude repairs and inefficient systems. Why do they not break? Why do they not stop? He ordered more aggressive tactics, attempting to board the human ships and disable them from within. But human ships were designed for dirty, close-quarters fighting. Their crews, generalists to the core, were equally adept at fixing a damaged engine and repelling boarders with hastily organized fire teams. Captain Carter, his uniform stained with grease and his face perpetually tired, simply oversaw the endless cycle of repairs, cargo management, and occasional combat. "We ain't pretty," he'd tell his crew, "but we're tough, and we'll keep going until the job's done." The true genius of human logistics was not just in their resilient ships, but in their adaptable crews. A Concordat logistics officer was a master of a specific cargo manifest. A human cargo master was also a mechanic, a security guard, and a surprisingly good cook. They didn't just manage their ships. They lived in them, adapting to every challenge with a practicality that bewildered the specialized aliens. The deval, in their pursuit of efficient interdiction, had no concept of an enemy that simply endured. They were designed to find the phi weakness, exploit it, and move on. The humans, with their multitude of weaknesses that somehow never quite managed to be fatal, were an anomaly they could not comprehend. The Concordat, initially skeptical, was now fully committed to the mule strategy. More mule fleets were commissioned, staffed by even more volunteers eager to apply humanity's unique brand of stubbornness to the deval threat. The flow of vital supplies to the front lines, once a trickle, became a steady, if slow and ugly, river. The war shifted. The deval, unable to stop the human convoys through conventional interdiction, began to target the human crews themselves. They deployed specialized psychic disruptors designed to sow confusion and panic in highly specialized alien minds. But human minds, like human ships, were gloriously, chaotically unoptimized. On the bridge of the TDFS Unyielding, another Mule-class vessel, a psychic disruptor beam struck. The Concordat vessels nearby reported waves of disorientation and panic. But the human crew, a mix of former artists, engineers, and eccentric hobbyists, experienced something far different. A comms officer, known for his eccentric collection of pre-FTL folk music, suddenly began singing at the top of his lungs, completely off-key. A tactical officer, who spent his off-duty hours writing bad poetry, started reciting a particularly terrible limerick about a space whale. The disruption created not panic, but a surge of bizarre, unpredictable creativity. Captain Carter, observing his singing and rhyming crew, simply sighed. Well, at least they're not panicking. Just being themselves, I guess. The deval, whose psychic disruptors were designed to break the elegant, logical patterns of specialized alien minds, found themselves completely baffled. They expected order. They found chaos. They expected panic. They found bad poetry. Human minds, already a mess of conflicting thoughts and irrational impulses, were surprisingly resistant to targeted psychological warfare. The deval disruptors, designed to unravel intricate mental tapestries, simply got lost in the tangled mess of human thought. Project Chimera, the psychological warfare division that had dealt with the Fear Eaters and Neurodivergent Brigade, already versed in the peculiarities of the human mind, had anticipated this. They had deliberately selected mule crews not just for physical endurance, but for mental resilience against a chaotic, unpredictable internal landscape. The deval, who believed they understood the mental architecture of all sentient species, were forced to confront a species whose minds were as stubbornly unoptimized as their ships. As the war progressed, the deval collective began to unravel. Their entire strategy, built on disrupting a perfectly optimized system, was failing against an enemy that embraced redundancy and inefficiency as a core principle. Grand Coordinator Zath, the deval's supreme commander, struggled to comprehend. Their convoys, they are never broken. Their crews, they are never truly disrupted. They are not elegant, they are not fast, but they are unbreakable. How do you defeat an enemy that simply refuses to fail in the way you expect? The deval, in their pursuit of efficient interdiction, had created a military that was a sharp, precise, but ultimately fragile scalpel. The humans, in their pragmatic embrace of good enough, had created a fleet of flying sponges, ugly, slow, but capable of absorbing endless punishment. Zath, in a desperate attempt to adapt, tried to implement some of humanity's redundancy principles into the deval military. He proposed building more robust, less specialized ships. He suggested training his crews in a wider array of skills. His proposals were met with outrage. "You would have us build ugly ships?" one council member chirped, horrified. "You would have us abandon the precision of our specialized training for the barbarism of generalists?" Another added. The deval culture, so steeped in its own precise optimization, was incapable of adapting. They could not bring themselves to embrace the philosophy of redundancy. Their internal logic, so accustomed to perfect efficiency, could not comprehend the strategic value of purposeful inefficiency. The war had reached a bitter, grinding stalemate. The deval, for all their tactical brilliance, could not stop the human convoys. The humans, for all their resilience, could not hope to truly conquer a civilization as vast and elusive as the deval collective. It was humanity, of course, that devised the final, brutally simple solution. They didn't try to build a superweapon. They didn't try to outmaneuver the deval fleet. Instead, they identified the single critical linchpin of the entire deval war effort, their network of highly specialized, incredibly efficient, but ultimately fragile data relays. These relays were the deval's eyes and ears, their nervous system, allowing them to coordinate their precise interdiction tactics. A single heavily modified human cargo ship, the Payload Express, crewed by a small team of engineers and saboteurs, slipped past the deval defenses. Their mission was not to fight, but to reach a key deval data relay station. They found the station to be a place of intricate, automated beauty. There were no visible defenses, no manual overrides. The relay was controlled by a single, impossibly complex AI, its processes a symphony of precision data transfer. The human team didn't try to hack the AI. They didn't try to reprogram it. They did something much simpler. They found the relay's primary fiber optic trunk, a massive bundle of superconducting data cables. And then, using a series of high-yield, precisely placed explosive charges, they blew it up. It was the cosmic equivalent of cutting the phone lines. The relay, deprived of its data connection, sputtered and died. The intricate web-like network of the deval's intelligence gathering was shattered. Their ability to coordinate their precise interdiction tactics, their very reason for existence as a military force, was, in a single, brutally simple act of sabotage, completely and utterly crippled. The deval collective, blinded and disoriented, their precise tactics now impossible, sued for peace. The war ended not with a grand final battle, but with the quiet, ignominious silence of a severed connection. The deval collective, humbled and defeated, withdrew from Concordat space. The war ended not with a bang, but with the quiet, unsettling realization that their perfect efficiency had been their downfall. Captain Ben Carter, now a celebrated admiral, stood before the Concordat High Council. He was no longer the perpetually weary logistical officer. He was the hero who had taught the galaxy a new, ugly, but undeniably effective way to wage war. The deval were faster, smarter, and technologically superior in many ways, Carter stated, his voice calm and clear. But we simply kept going. We never stopped. We proved that sometimes the most sophisticated weapon is simply the capacity to endure the mundane, the difficult, and the profoundly unspecialized. The Concordat, in the long, quiet centuries that followed, began a slow, painful process of introspection. They did not abandon their pursuit of elegance and efficiency, but they began to temper it with a new, grudging respect for the principles of redundancy and adaptability. They started building ships with manual overrides. They started training their crews in a wider array of skills. They even began to embrace a little bit of beautiful, messy human chaos in their own pristine logistics. Humanity, the brutish, pragmatic Mules, had taught the galaxy's most advanced civilization a profound and humbling lesson. They had proven that in a universe of infinite specialization, sometimes the greatest strength lies in the humble, unglamorous, and utterly undeniable power of simply getting the job done, no matter how ugly or inefficient it seemed. The age of specialized perfection was not over, but it now had to make room for the grease-stained, versatile, and utterly indispensable generalist. The galaxy had learned to appreciate the mule. They had learned that true strength wasn't just in optimization, but in the enduring, stubborn, unbreakable will to simply carry on.